You're a man. Your breasts are made of silicone, your vagina goes nowhere, and we can tell the difference. Even when you are not there, your hormones are synthetic, and let's just cross this bridge. What you have, you stupid man, is male privilege. This poem against transgenderism was liked and retweeted by a chap called Harry Miller, otherwise known as Harry the Owl. At his place of work, he apparently received a phone call from the Humberside Police, which he documents in a series of tweets. Got a call from the director of his company saying cops wanted to speak to me. He'd had sense not to give out my number but said he'd pass on details. I rang. Spoke to a PC from Humberside, introduced himself as representing the LGBTQ community on a report of hate speech by me. They'd found me via my company and been all over the website and decided if I employed trans people at all, it was not a safe place for them and work should know. That's mildly concerning, isn't it? The fact that the police appear to be acting as the Inquisition for social justice and are investigating someone for doing something that they admit is not a crime. Cop said he was in possession of 30 tweets by me. I asked if any contained criminal material. He said no. I asked if any came close to being criminal, and he read me a limerick. Honestly, a limerick. A cop read me a limerick over the phone. I said, I didn't write that. He said, but you liked and promoted it. I asked why he was wasting his time on a non-crime, and he said, it's not a crime, but it will be recorded as a hate incident. This is a form of ideological enforcement for intersectionality. This is the cops acting like a Sharia patrol for intersectionality. This person has not committed a crime, and yet the police are investigating them as if they have and do not care that there is no appropriate reason for them to be doing it. It's honestly like the Mutaween for social justice. So I've added to a statistic, even though there was no crime, which brings me to my next point. The cop repeatedly called the complainant the victim. I asked how there could be a victim if, as he had established, there is no crime. He said, that's just how it works. That is an immoral thing for an authority figure to say. Okay? They have to be able to justify why it is they're doing what they're doing. Saying it's just how it works is exactly the same as saying I was just following orders. It's just how it works. Are you serious? You are not even going to critically engage with the fact that you, for an ideology, are investigating a man who has committed no crime and have ascribed a victim of his non-criminal actions, which Harry picks up on, saying my comment was that by framing the complainant as victim, this made me by default criminal. I asked him to desist from using it. This is where it gets incredibly sinister. The cop told me that he needed to speak with me because even though I'd committed no crime whatsoever, he needed, and I quote, to check my thinking. Seriously, honestly, the thought police have arrived then. If this man's particular method of thinking is somehow offensive enough to the cops that, though not a crime in and of itself yet, borders one closely enough that he needs to now record this as a hate incident, maybe upgraded to a crime if the circumstances change, I suppose. Don't have thoughts that are outside of the politically correct, homogenous orthodoxy of apparently West Humberside Police, but apparently all of our bloody police forces. Don't have thoughts that go against the orthodoxy, and if you do, don't you express these in public, and a like and a retweet will be enough to condemn you. I mean, this is literally Orwellian, and it is turning the police into some kind of ideological goon squad. Finally, he lectured me. He said, sometimes a woman's brain grows a man's body in the womb, and that's what transgender is. You can imagine my response. I can imagine saying, look, I don't care about what your opinion of what a transgender is. I care about what your opinion of what a crime is and isn't. It is not for a poorly educated police officer to try and lecture someone else on transgenderism. I'm going to guess that what this police officer is saying is a product of their diversity training. They have been trained to be hypersensitive to transgender issues by social justice activists. Lastly, he told me that I needed to watch my words more carefully or I was at risk of being sacked by my company for hate speech. That's pretty incredible how I think Harry the Owl is actually the owner of his company. So I don't think they're actually going to sack him for hate speech. But it's interesting how the police officer decided to try and intimidate the person who had not committed a crime into following social justice orthodoxy by not questioning whether trans women are women. This is happening in Britain in 2019, 2 days ago. We're not just taking Harry's word for it either. The Humberside police have confirmed that this happened. As their Twitter account posted, we received reports of a number of transphobic comments being posted on social media. We take all reports of hate-related incidents seriously, and we will always investigate to determine if a hate crime or incident has been committed, and then we will take proportionate action. So they're doubling down, and they got quite satisfyingly ratioed because what they've done is wrong. They shouldn't be investigating things that are not crimes. This appears to just be about transphobic or anti-progressive comments, because otherwise they don't give a damn. And this appears to be only for the intersectional part of what they actually do. Someone asked them, why was this poem investigated? Are you aware that transphobia is not a crime? If I send you a tweet containing direct threats of violence against specific women from a named man, will you investigate because we have hundreds? If not, can you legally explain the difference? And they say, thanks for your message. If the victim or offender is from our area, then we will happily investigate. Please call us with details if you're in another local area, report it to your local force. Which is not what happened when investigating this poem. Harry Miller is not in Humberside, his company is not in Humberside, and the complainant is also not in Humberside. Why on earth are the Humberside police getting involved in this? And why do they have such a hypocritical stance on this when dealing with any other crime that you seem to have a weird and specific focus on this, as if this is some kind of moral imperative and not some kind of legal requirement? How can anyone look at this and not see it as being social justice as a movement, having taken control of the police forces? In what other way would you describe it? The only reason one would care about saying that trans women are men or trans women are women is if one was a radical intersectional ideologue. That is the social movement that has invented these terms, popularized them, and is now enforcing them on the rest of us. For example, the person who wrote this poem is someone called Restless Ellie. Restless Ellie is a radical man-hating TERF, a trans-exclusionary radical feminist, as you can see by her use of trans cult is a men's rights movement. Because it's not just they hate trans, they really do hate men. Liberal feminism is internalized patriarchy. These are the sort of nutbags that I used to originally critique back in 2013, 2014, before intersectionality just steamrolled the feminist movement. And now these people have been pushed to the margins, and the intersectional feminists are actually using state power to persecute their previous opponents. Because this whole thing comes down to a schism within feminism, between the trans-exclusionary radical feminists and the intersectional feminists who do not see any difference between men and women apart from the social construct. The TERFs are biological essentialists and the SJWs are blank slaters. They don't believe that biology affects anything. There is actually a surprisingly vibrant TERF movement in the United Kingdom, and it's being led in part by people like Graham Linehan. Trans activists don't realise the damage that they do. Well, he's not wrong there, is he? You know, as much of an absolute pillock as Graham is, he's not wrong when he says that the intersectional radical feminist activists who are attacking him and us and everyone else are doing a lot of damage, and they absolutely are. I mean, they've got the cops investigating a guy for doing nothing wrong, by the cop's own admission. And this has turned into a kind of back and forth war between the TERFs and the intersectionals in Britain in particular, but all across the internet. And honestly, it's like, I hate to say it, but I think we're going to have to side with the TERFs. Like, I know that sounds terrible. Like the Valerie Solanas wing of feminism, we're gonna have to side with those people. They're gonna end up getting sent to jail as political prisoners. They're going to be persecuted by the state, by intersectional feminists. They are the ones who think that it is acceptable to make some people suffer in order to achieve the greater good. Don't get me wrong, the TERFs are really, really terrible people too, and they probably would be something very similar, except they're so unbelievably vile they'll never attain any power. And I would like their free speech to be exercised, so I have some good content for my channel, thank you very much. So to show you the schism between the TERFs and I guess what we'll call the RIFs, radical intersectional feminists, Sky News actually hosted a debate back in September between someone called Posey Parker and Adrian Harrop that was over the offensive nature of a billboard advertisement that had the dictionary definition of women.
A giant poster quoting a Google dictionary definition of the word woman has been removed from a wall in Liverpool. The poster read, woman, women, noun, adult, human, female. But according to one LGBTQ activist, it qualified as hate speech and was deemed dangerous for transgender women.
Isn't that incredible? One activist can deem that as hate speech, put a fatwa out on that advert, and suddenly it's dangerous hate speech and it has to be removed. Now we have to implement censorship of a TERF's opinion. I'm sorry, the TERFs are entitled to their opinions. They're entitled to put things up, even if they're offensive.
Now from Newcastle by Dr. Adrian Harrop, who campaigned for the poster's removal. And in our central London studio, we can speak to Kelly J. Keane-Minshall, founder of the women's rights organisation Standing for Women, who were behind the poster. Hello.
We can instantly see a generational difference, can't we? Young beta male soy boy and man-hating old battle axe.
Dr. Adrian Harrop, to you first. What is so offensive about the dictionary definition of women?
There is nothing inherently offensive with the dictionary definition of women.
If there's nothing inherently offensive about these things, there's no legitimacy to your argument, is there, good sir?
Really isn't what this was about at all. This is about what that particular poster presented in that particular way, in that particular location, represents, and what the underlying meaning and the thinking that was driving putting up that poster.
So what was the underlying meaning then? To anyone looking at it, was it any more than a dictionary definition?
So that poster was put up by a campaign group that is led by Miss Keane-Minshall, who has led and spearheaded a campaign against trans people, particularly against trans women, that's extended over several months now, mostly online, but also in a real-life environment, where she sought to demonise trans women and to highlight them as dangerous sexual predators. This poster that was put up is a symbol of that campaign.
Okay, let's assume that it is. The poster itself didn't have anything like that on it, and therefore you have no justification for taking it down. Just because it's done by someone you don't like as part of a campaign that you don't like, if this poster is not in some way inherently breaking the rules, and even then I'd love to have a conversation about what those rules should be, but if it's not breaking these rules and you admit that, then the poster stays.
A woman is a person who identifies as a woman. A person who identifies as a woman.
Okay, and there is the official dogma handed down from intersectionalism from on high. They believe that if a person identifies as a woman, then that person must be a woman. There is no biological component, there is no connection to the body itself, it is a transcendental thing that they are proposing. If you simply wish to say, I am a woman, we are now all obligated to treat you as if you are a woman. I'm afraid, Mr. Harrop, that isn't how the rest of the world thinks of this subject. And the thing is, you actually don't have any particular legitimacy on this, beyond saying, this is my dogma, this is my truth, and I choose to impose it over all other truths. I'm afraid the question of trans women are women really does come down to the opinion of, do you think they are or not? Do you think there is a connection from female to woman? And if you do, then you don't agree. If you don't, then you do agree. But at the end of the day, it really does just come down to this matter of opinion. And I am of the opinion that there is some biological basis for the social construct that is woman. And fundamentally, that means having children, facilitating reproduction. That's what the gender role of woman is for. So when an intersectionist type says a man who transitions into being a woman is a woman, there is a core component about being a woman that they will never actually be able to fulfill. You saying it, Adrian, is just you being ideologically correct, you promoting orthodoxy. The reality behind the social construct of woman, in the case of a trans woman, will never represent the biological necessity that birthed the role in the first place. And that is the fundamental crux of it. And yes, there are women who can't give birth, who say they feel like less of a woman, because it is core to the essence of womanhood that one is able to give birth to children. It is not just a sexual display, there is an underlying purpose to it. And the sad fact of reality is, Adrian, trans women will never be able to fulfill that purpose. Only a biological cis woman will be able to do it.
Kelly J. Keane-Minshaw, about your own Twitter account, which has currently been suspended, both your Posey Parker account and your Human Female account. You yourself were questioned by police, West Yorkshire Police, after accusations that you made towards Susie Green, the mother of a 16-year-old, took her child to Thailand.
Would you like to elaborate on that accusation? It was because I said I thought it was wrong to castrate a 16-year-old child.
I'm asking.
They will not stop using the state to persecute dissidents against their ideology. It is not against their moral compass. It would be a moral thing for them to use the police to remove these dissidents, because the existence of people like her are hurting trans people in their minds. Whether they are or aren't, no real harm has to be done, obviously. This is ideologically offensive, but they won't stop. There's nothing compelling them to stop. All they will do is keep going, and they will keep using more and more force the more and more they are able.